welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the line with us right now is the sensation from TNA Gut Check that everybody's talking about, Mr. Joey Ryan. Joey, are you with us?
I'm here. Pleasure's all yours.
Pleasure is all ours. And I got to tell you, I really enjoyed what I saw of you the other day, and on Impact, I guess it's almost a month ago, 3 weeks ago now, and I guess how has the door opened for you since your appearance on TNA a few weeks ago?
I've really received a ton of support from the fans, just showing that they feel the same way I do, that their opinion should matter, and I don't think they feel like they're very respected right now because, they told, TNA Impact, they say, the fans matter and that their opinion matters and, come to our social media sites and, vote and do these things, and then they proved positive that they don't even care what the fans think. But, this last few weeks I've gotten so much fan support because, of the frustration of the fans at Impact as a whole.
Absolutely. And watching the show at home, it was nice to see your style in that ring. And, what would you say your style is? Are you an X Division worker like they placed you, or you consider yourself more of an old school worker? What would you say your style is best represented with?
I like to be able to be versatile. If you put me in the ring with Austin Aries or you put me in the ring with, Abyss, I like to think that, I can make the best of the situation and, put on something entertaining. Very
cool. Now, your look is definitely something that caught people's eye right away. Everybody drove the conclusion to Ron Burgundy, Anchorman. Was that intentional, or is that something that just happened by accident?
It's actually, I guess it's just the way I look, but the idea is really basically when I started wrestling and I realized I could pretty much do whatever I wanted with the industry, I wanted to be a wrestler like the wrestlers I grew up watching, which was in the 80s. So I wanted to be an 80s wrestler. So I patterned my look after things I liked and things I could do and present to resemble an 80s wrestler. And I guess it just looks like Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, maybe Gary. What was his name? Gary Young. I'm trying to think from the Mid-South world-class territory. You kind of remind me of him. Rick Rude, young Rick Rude, maybe a little bit there too.
Maybe. I wish I had Rick Rude's abs, but maybe I can get his mullet.
That's true. That's definitely true. So when you're a wrestler and you're working for TNA and you're trying out for this gut check and you're sitting there watching what we're watching at home where they're critiquing your performance, what's going through your mind?
I felt ambushed. I felt like they made up their minds maybe before I even wrestled. The fact that I do think I had a good showing against Austin Aries, and I was memorable, and people talked about me, and I trended on Twitter, and 87% of their audience said, "Please, we want to see more of this guy," and they made up reasons which were very suspect at best to say no. I felt like I was being ambushed, and I didn't really mean any disrespect towards Taz or those guys, but I'm not going to stand there if somebody's going to talk down to me. I'm going to stand up for myself, because if I don't stand up for myself, then who will?
That's a good point. And, watching it, one of the things they critiqued was the fact that you did stay in character, and I'm willing to bet that if you didn't stay in character, they would have critiqued that as well.
Well, I feel like I have a Bruce Banner side and an Incredible Hulk side, and anytime I get in the ring or anytime those lights are on, it's the Incredible Hulk, and I'm not going to venture too far from that for anybody, for any reason.
Now you're standing in the face of Taz, and Taz is cutting a promo on You Beat Me If You Can, Survive If I Let You, kind of getting into it again. Haven't heard him talk that tough in a while. Is it at all intimidating to you to have a guy who legitimately has a hell of a career behind him, kind of cutting a promo legit in your face, screaming at you?
Well, that's his quote-unquote gimmick isn't a gimmick. He's a legit tough guy. He's a judo. He knows how to fight. And but like I said in the video, the YouTube video I did, I'd rather be choked out on live TV than panda for a job, and then when I get turned down, tuck my tail between my legs and walk away. Like I said, I felt like I was being ambushed, and I was frustrated and upset at the time. And that's just the reaction I had. And if it went further than it did, then we would have seen what happened. But luckily for, I guess, everybody, maybe except for maybe the TV audience that wanted to see it, cooler heads prevailed.
Right. Now, the cool thing about your performance on there is that you've been talked about on the show since your appearance, and you were rejected. And the kid who was approved the month prior hasn't been mentioned ever since. What do you attribute to the fact that basically you have the staying power and everybody else is kind of forgotten about?
Well, there could be a number of reasons. I'm not in there booking meetings or, or writers' meetings or whatever. It could be that Taz wanted to take another shot at me because I took shots at him on the Internet, and 30,000 people, watched that video, had that many views on YouTube, and maybe Taz wanted a forum to say his piece, or maybe the fact that so many people were paying attention and the fact I was trending on Twitter, that they wanted to capitalize on that. They had more footage of me to show. They didn't have to fly me out. They didn't have to pay me again. They had the footage already, so why not use it? If it's hot, why not use it?
Very cool. Patrick Kelly, by the way, my co-host, is on the line. Patrick?
Hello there, Mr. Joey Ryan. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing great, Basically, what we really wanted to ask you about, I know you were just talking about it with James, about your current situation with TNA. What was it like doing the Gut Check segment, and what was it like being thrust into the spotlight that quickly?
I'm sorry. I'm actually at a show right now, and they're calling for me because I need to do something right now. Can I call you back?
Sorry. Go enjoy your show. Go get paid. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. And just to point out, guys, it's time. It's time to start the show. What other time would it be? Anybody know?
Well, it's time to light the lights. It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight. Boom, 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 boom. I know you were going somewhere else with that, but...
True story. My wedding party entered to that song.
Well, that's fine. The problem is I don't want the fat man entering to it again. Look, they're talking about Vader.
They came out to the Muppets theme?
No, I don't want them coming out to the stupid Vader theme.
Oh, come on.
No, look, I'm sorry. That segment was fucking horrible. First off, you knew who was coming out 5 miles away once Slater started...
Oh, and he started going, it's Slater time, and just by coincidence, Vader walks out. What are the odds?
Yeah. What are the odds? I mean, wow. Anything can happen in the WWE, and probably will.
Look, I'm sorry. He looked horrible. He couldn't move. He almost tripped again coming down the fucking ramp.
He's not a young man. Look, for a guy that's 57 years old, he looked fine.
He's 57 years old. I think he weighs in excess of 600 pounds. I don't want to...
They build him at 432, so whatever that is.
Well, that's morbidly obese. I don't care. I mean, I know he was never...
Well, here's my take on it. As long as it's a one-night thing, I think it's fine, because I don't think... if he had beat Punk or Daniel Bryan or Ziggler or somebody like that, I'd have been like, wow, that's stupid, but... I mean, it's Heath Slater. Who gives a shit? Well, but if they try to give Vader another run, I think that would be a mistake.
Well, apparently they want to give He's trying to suck his way back into the business. Apparently this is the start of that. This will be like the lead up to the 1000th episode of Raw, where it will be like a weekly thing. And I'll actually say this, depending on who it is, I would rather see an older wrestler come in and have a run and work with the younger generation and hopefully get them over a little bit than have just this one random fat old man show up, crush a guy. And I know we're saying, oh, well, it's just Heath Slater. You know what? Heath Slater has more potential at this stage in his life than Vader. I'm not saying he's ever going to be world champion, but you know what? He can make a damn good tag team champion. He can make a damn good intercontinental champion if pushed right. Instead, it's
not in the WWE. I mean, come on, tag titles mattering in the WWE. Come on. They look like pennies for a reason, because that's about what they're worth.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I'm saying. And I just don't buy this whole, like, oh, it's so awesome. We're going to see all these old veterans. I'm sick and tired of seeing the same old men show up. each year on WWE, and people are like, oh, it's so original, it's so great. Oh, look, there's Roddy Piper. He looks like he's 9 months pregnant. He can't even walk straight. Oh, there's the Iron Sheik. Oh, the Iron Sheik. Oh, the Iron Sheik does all these racist rants, but we think he's fucking awesome. Oh my God, there's fuck me and fuck off. You know what? And people rip TNA
fuck me and fuck off.
Who's playing a general manager.
If I was putting a show intro together and I had to play clips to say what means what in these guys, Nick Knoll's clip would be, and Nick Knoll, fuck me and fuck off.
I have never said fuck me and fuck off.
You just did. You just did.
I'm never at a point of making an argument.
That's a great soundbite, though.
It really would be. Yes, absolutely. But anyway, Vader's a...
But this is where I'm going to sympathize with Nick a little bit. And he's right. Like, because not everybody, but, some people were down on Sting for, what happened at Slammiversary. And, okay, fine, but then they turn around and they mark out for Vader, and I think that's hypocritical.
Well, you know what? The problem is people are going, oh, that match bombed at Slammiversary. That match bombed at Slammiversary. No, you know what fucking bombed? Johnny Ace and John Cena. That match was not the greatest match ever. Both Bobby Roode and Sting have had much better matches, and they had a much better match against each other a few months ago. It wasn't that bad. I think the problem is we've come to this weird place in pro wrestling where we forget heels are bad guys and they cheat. So everyone's like now for some reason goes off on this whole tangent of, oh my God, Bobby Roode never gets clean victories. What's wrong? Why can't he get a clean victory? I don't know, because he's a bad guy and he's willing to cheat. He's the villain. He's the guy that in the old Western would kidnap the hero's girlfriend so he wouldn't draw on a gunfight. Shit like that. He's the bad guy. We're supposed to dislike him. He's not supposed to get a clean victory because he'd rather cheat to get a victory. Yeah, people freak out about it. It's like, and then oh my God, Vader's so great. And next week when Roddy Piper shows up and does one of his, well, I'm Roddy Piper. I like the color of these lights promos. People are gonna mark out for that.
Don't you blow no more smoke in my face.
You know what? That was 1989, which may have been the last time Piper was great consistently.
Yeah, Piper. The last few times he's appeared on WWE TV, it's actually been kind of sad. He looks like a leprechaun. Like, look at his face. He looks like the leprechaun from the damn Warwick Davis movie that Jennifer Aniston was in.
Which WWE is apparently remaking to star Hornswoggle.
Yeah, because that's a great idea. That is a phenomenal idea. Which, by the way, I have a rant to go on regarding the WWE. What they did with Hornswoggle mocking JR with his Bell's palsy, and then turn around on Monday night and have Vince do the exact same thing, I think is one of the most hypocritical, mean-spirited things that WWE has ever done.
But hey, it was wrong when Ed Ferrara did it.
Exactly. And again, it goes into that whole, history's written by the winner thing. And look, I thought the Oklahoma character was in poor taste. I did not like it. I did not like that they make fun of his Bell's palsy. I think JR, and I love JR to death, I think he's one of the, if not the greatest, he's one of the greatest commentators of all time. But he's easy to parody.
Simply because of the fact that he has been on the grander stage, he's going to go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. Because, he just is going to go down for that because he was around for such a long time, and most people already revered him as an icon, as an announcer anyway. The only people that can come close, you can argue Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, and you can also argue Gordon Solie, but Gordon Solie was more regional. And I think, unfortunately, JR, because he was part of the WWE, is going to go down in history books above him.
Right, but they make fun of him. The WWE had, their greatest announcer of all time, and they constantly do shit like this to him. And this was the worst because it wasn't funny. There was no point to it. And it makes you look like hypocrites because for years and years you bashed WCW and Vince Russo for doing this character, this Oklahoma character. And again, I don't have a problem with the JR parody because I do think he's easy to parody, and I think it could be funny. It's when you go into making fun of his medical condition that I think you descend into poor taste. And WWE did it twice in less than a week. And how can you bash WCW when you do the exact same thing? It makes no sense to me.
Well, also, I'm going to say this. This is the same company that's making a big deal out of their Be a Star campaign, but it's not like this is the first time they bashed JR. I mean, people need to remember a number of years ago when one of the many times they've thrown him off the air, a few days later he had to have a colonoscopy, a serious medical condition.
They had Dr. Heine.
Yeah,
that's one of the worst things ever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. For whatever reason, I think part of it is because Jim Ross is so respected, Vince gets a huge fucking kick out of doing stuff like that involving him. You know, I think Vince...
Well, you know, the Nurse Heine thing, as bad as it was, and it was, like, the worst thing ever. I'm not even kidding. It was one of the worst segments they've ever filmed. At least there was a storyline for it, and it was supposed to go somewhere until Austin walked out on them. So it's like, all right, it's stupid as hell, but at least I understand the method to the madness. There was no point to this. None at all. It was just for the sake of being mean. And JR, you know, he hasn't even been on TV regularly since last year, maybe even longer than that. And because, you know, we just have to have King and Michael Cole for whatever reason, but I see shit like that, and it just exposes the pure hypocrisy of the WWE sometimes. And again, going into what Nick says about the WWE getting a pass on a lot of things, I have yet to hear one person bring this up.
You know what? I actually missed it. I hadn't seen those two segments. For those that don't know, I have other things to do on Monday nights, so I missed the beginning of Raw, and I do come back and I do watch it because I do feel like I have to at least watch part of a show to review it, unlike other people. And I had not seen that, but you know what? It is. It's 100% hypocritical. You know, because of the whole Be a Star campaign, they make such a big deal out of it, and, you know, flaunt like, see, we're not bad people. We have this whole campaign where we tell kids not to bully each other. And also, like Patrick said, for years they have always had, on almost every release about WCW, or anytime WCW gets brought up, it's like, yeah, that jackass Vince Russo doing this, mocking poor JR.
Right.
Yeah.
My favorite was the rise and fall of WCW, and I've ranted about this before, but it bears repeating. My favorite part of it was when they had Mike Graham on there, taking credit for bringing Hogan to WCW, and then you had Flair on there, who cut his teeth in the NWA, which became WCW, saying bullshit like, I'm glad it went out of business. That was, look, when WCW was sold, March 26, 2001, I literally went for a walk around town and cut my knuckles open because I punched one of those concrete wall things. I got so frustrated.
Good idea.
Well, it was not a good idea, but I was incredibly pissed off because I went online shortly after it ended, and some people were saying, think of the matches you could see. Now we're going to get to see Austin and Goldberg. We never did. And we're going to get to see all these other things. It's going to be so great. And my comment was, okay, then what?
Well, you know what, James? That's actually a damn good transition because in the closing of WCW, it did allow for something new to be born, and that, of course, was Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, which celebrated its 10-year anniversary with the Slammiversary pay-per-view this past Sunday, and I think now's a good time to start getting into that.
All right, and I want to say this. I did a preview on my YouTube channel of Slammiversary, not necessarily praising TNA for the build-up to this pay-per-view. I also did a video listing the top 10 best pay-per-views in TNA history as a celebration of their 10 years here. And in watching this show, and I did check out Slammiversary, I can honestly say that this was one of the best pay-per-views of the year. Like, it really caught me off guard how good this show was.
It's amazing. It was. Everybody worked hard, and I'm going to let Nick talk because I know Nick wants to talk about TNA. But the thing that really shined it, besides the guys all giving their best, and they all did give their best, and they deserve credit for it, the thing that really shined it was that crowd. You had a crowd that's not overly familiar with the talents, when I say that, I don't mean that they don't know who these guys are. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you watch the Orlando crowd, they're so familiar with the talents that they just don't pop. It's like if you see Kiss every night, at some point when they do Detroit Rock City, you're just going to kind of go, it's that again. That's just what happens. This crowd popped for all the guys, all the characters. They were red hot. It looked phenomenal. I mean, it looked WWE quality production because it was in such a big arena. It was just an excellent show.
It really was, top to bottom. It was just a thoroughly entertaining pay-per-view from start to finish, I thought. And this is coming from somebody who's been critical of TNA in the last couple of years. This is coming from somebody who did not have high expectations for this pay-per-view. And when it was over, I was like, holy crap, that was probably one of the best pay-per-views of the year. Like, it's either this or Extreme Rules, quite honestly. Nick, are you there? Did we lose Nick? James, are you there? Hello? Where'd everybody go? James? Nick? Hello?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, we lost James, too, so I've been by myself for the last couple of minutes. So, all right, Nick, we're on Slammiversary, so what did you think of the show?
I agree with you guys. I actually will say that so far as I'm concerned, it's the best pay-per-view of the year. I know some people are going to say, oh, WrestleMania. I'm sorry, I did not enjoy WrestleMania. I thought it was a dud. I thought this show delivered on every level. I thought even the worst match on that card was pretty good. I thought, as James was saying before, I had to answer a phone call from my aunt who calls every 5 minutes if you don't call her back. I thought it was. I thought that crowd was great. I mean, they popped for everything. It was an energized crowd. It is, from what TNA is saying, is the largest crowd they've ever played in the U.S., which is wonderful to hear a record like that. And you did have that special moment for, I think, is, even on the pre-show, Jeremy Borash had made a comment I thought was perfect. He said, I remember reading a headline right before we launched, which read, TNA is DOA. We hadn't even run a show yet, and they were saying we were dead. I thought, I thought there was a lot of celebration. I felt like you got off to this really good start with Austin Aries and Samoa Joe, and I thought they had, probably Joe's best match in a long time. Aries, seems like, since coming back, has really shown people, hey, look, I blew it my first 2 times. This time they're gonna have to kick me out as I scratch and claw my way back in because I'm not leaving this time. I'm gonna show everyone why I deserve to be here. And then it felt like.
And I've been a naysayer of Austin Aries, but he's really shined through in this last run.
I think part of it is that he stopped drinking a certain amount of Kool-Aid, and he kind of realized, I'm not such a big deal. I kind of got to be humble here. And now he's getting opportunities, and it's like, okay, I've earned this. Now I'm going to show people why. And I definitely think he's had a great match. I mean, even like Kid Cash and Hernandez had a pretty decent match. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say that was one of the greatest matches of all time, and Kid Cash is brilliant, and Hernandez is the greatest big man ever. But it was okay. I mean, I thought, wow, this is actually a pretty good
offensive.
Yeah. It was decent.
And you got some good spots out of it, so yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, and then, I mean, even like other stuff. I mean, I thought the worst match was the Knockouts match. I think part of that was the crowd was a little dead after the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. After they announced Sting will be the first member of the TNA Hall of Fame, but I think is the perfect choice in a lot of key areas. I thought the crowd was a little dead, and it didn't help that like Tessmacher was a little botchy at times, and I feel like Gail kind of had to like say to her, okay, calm down, we're going to do it, it's going to be fine, don't worry. I mean, the main event was kind of a letdown to a certain extent, but I thought it was still a pretty good match. I thought
it was a good match. I really liked, and going back to what you said about Sting being put into the Hall of Fame, I thought it was a good idea to add to Sting's legacy as the show progressed to kind of make it, Rude's win over him more meaningful.
Right, and also, man, even kind of like some of the things they were doing, like they did like a whole video package during, as part of the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and you had other, and even though it played as part of Before the Bell, and they were saying, you had Hogan saying, I am constantly telling him that he is much better than he ever thinks he is. His timing is perfect. He is everything we need. And you have Hogan putting over Sting really strong. You have Devon saying stuff like, he has won whenever he really needs to win. You have even guys like Joe and Crimson who are heels saying, Sting is a franchise player. It made it feel like, wow, this guy is a huge deal. And what's sad is you have so many people that are saying things like, Sting's overrated, Sting's this or that. I say to those people, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He is one of the all-time greats. And it did feel special that he's going into this Hall of Fame. And, and then, even like the tag match, I honestly feel like that was one of those times Kurt Angle grabbed everyone he was working with and said, okay, we're going to have the best goddamn match in the world. I'm going to do everything I can possibly do. You guys got to keep up.
That was an awesome match, that tag match. A couple other things I want to throw out there. I thought the Crimson Open Challenge, bringing Storm back, which is something I suggested, actually, I thought that was a great thing to do. I thought the three-way between Party, Rob Van Dam, and Mr. Anderson was actually really good, and it sets up, the title match for Thursday. And they're doing the Bound for Glory series again this year, which I really like, so that's good to hear. But go ahead.
Well, I feel like with the Crimson Open Challenge, I thought, there's a lot of potential for a great storyline here. I was thinking maybe they would do it with Joey Ryan, who I'm convinced this whole thing is a work and he's coming back at some point. The idea would be, okay, he comes up and he has a tough match with Crimson. It's kind of his way. Taz kind of says, you know what, Joey, I'm going to say yes now. And then Taz kind of becomes like his champion or something. But yeah, it was a great way to bring back Storm. I think there's actually a potential there for a Crimson James Storm match because now you can do the story of Crimson's fucking pissed because there goes that winning streak of his, and he's got to kill the guy that broke it.
Well, even if they don't do that, I think it was just a good way to reintroduce Storm to get him back on track, because I think Storm's going to win the Bound for Glory series, so this was a good way to, okay, Storm's back, he's back in the hunt, and they gave him this win over an undefeated guy who, Crimson's not exactly one of my favorite guys, but you brought in Storm, who is one of my favorites, and you had him beat a guy who's been unbeaten for a year and a half. So I thought that came off really well.
Absolutely. And I'll say this, if he doesn't win the Bound for Glory series, somebody else will have to have gotten very, very, very hot.
Austin Aries, probably.
Yeah. It has to be someone really clicking on all cylinders to convince me that it's not the right call, because I do feel like the perfect story would be Storm, who lost the title almost a year ago, failed at the chance to get it in his hometown at the biggest event, comes home and finally doesn't come home, but gets his revenge on the biggest stage of the TNA has.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I want to throw praise to, and I got to say this, I think that this match is arguably match of the night. I'm not even kidding when I say that. Bully Ray versus Joseph Park was one of the most entertaining matches I've seen in a while. And I gained a lot of respect. I gained a lot of respect for Chris Parks as a performer because you had to take a big guy who's a trained wrestler and play a character who is not a trained wrestler. He did so convincingly. He was able to get the crowd support. He was able to gain sympathy. And the two combined to make a really entertaining and really funny match. But they didn't do that much. It was just two great characters playing off of each other the whole time.
I want to say this. This is my reaction to that match. Ready?
Okay.
That's the sound of me clapping. Abyss is a genius. He's a genius performer. I truly believe that. And the only thing that's going to ever stand in his way from being remembered as great as he is that there's a guy named Mick Foley that came before him. But other than that, he is just simply amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with Patrick. It has to be a challenge for a guy that's done, the monster gimmick. And I know he's done different things with it over the years, but he's always kind of wrestled the same style. I mean, it's not like, you know, he's been a more technical wrestler when he's been more of a baby face or something. He still kind of works as a big man, and then he had to go in there and he had to play, you know, the polar opposite of the Monster Abyss. I mean, the Monster Abyss is the guy who loves weapons, the guy that lost both his teeth and smiles about it. Brings out a big knife, not knife, but a nail-covered board called Janice that he declares is his woman. This is a character who goes, well, you know, Mr. Bully Ray, I've never been in a fight before, but you know what? I'm just getting mad enough I might do it. And it's a great character, and it's going to be interesting to see where they go now that Abyss is back.
Well, you know, it's funny. They might want to just keep Joseph Park going because I think it's, you know, people seem to really be digging it.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I don't know, and this is legitimate, I don't know how many people are just playing along and how many people just don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that.
I think, like, I could say this. I think people like us, like that, watch wrestling all the time, and we understand how everything kind of works, and we have. I'll inflate our egos a little bit here. We have a learned eye. You know, we know what to look for. We all know that it's Abyss. That said, I could see more casual fans being fooled by it and thinking, wow, you know, that Joseph Park guy is a pretty good performer. Not understanding that it's Abyss. I mean, there were some people who were saying, wow, that guy changes really fast, too, at a Slammiversary when you had Abyss come out.
No, that's verbatim what my son said. Because my son said, how did he change so fast? How did he do that? But I love it, though, because it's as simple as Superman.
Right.
You think about it. All he did was put a pair of glasses on. And people are confused.
Oh, Lois.
I didn't recognize you with those glasses on. It was your spectacles that threw me off.
Oh, we're getting a thunderstorm here.
Uh-oh.
I just heard a crack of thunder. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that, you know, I got a text message from a friend of mine right after that match ended. He's like, is it wrong of me to say that they stole the show?
Well, I won't go that far, but I definitely thought it was an enjoyable match. You know, I thought, you know, one of my big pet peeves with people that grade wrestling is it seems like everyone kind of holds everything to the same scale. Like, okay, that match was good because of the same reasons Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage was good. Yeah, it's like, but you know what? When you look at the story they were trying to tell in the ring, you know, you can have a match that would be stupid if it's Savage and Steamboat trying to do it, but for the Bully Ray Joseph Parks character, that was a great match.
Mm-hmm.
People don't get parody anymore, and it started with WWE where everybody. I remember in the mid-'90s, all the wrestling games had the characters at the exact same size. Rey Mysterio Jr. was the same size as Hulk Hogan, and things like that. And unfortunately, for some reason, WWE took that to heart, and like they would never, for years, they wouldn't even mention, well, Triple H is twice the size of whoever the hell he was facing at the time, and it's like everybody could see it. If it's any other legitimate sport, you talk about their weight and height and statistics and things like that. But WWE went through a long phase, and they've kind of come out the other end of it a little bit, of never even mentioning these things, like they didn't exist. And unfortunately, based on that same standard, people have gravitated towards this. And if it's a 5-star match, or if it's a match, it has to be a 5-star technical match. And I think it reached a point where it was Big Show versus Kane, and they put on a technical match, and the internet community basically was going to shoot themselves in the face because they had no idea how to react to it. Because in theory, these two big guys can't do wrestling moves, and they actually put on a wrestling match, and they still shat on it, but they really had no reason as to why they shat on it. They just thought it sucked.
Well, the internet has their favorites, and they like, yeah, I mean, you can tell when they're trying to defend somebody that they like and when they're, throwing somebody under the bridge. But, I wouldn't have a problem with matches like this. I actually I think back to the blindfold match at WrestleMania 7 where Jake and Martel had an awesome match and they didn't do anything, which I thought was great. And even more comedy matches. Like, I think one of the funniest matches I've ever seen in my life was Mickie James versus Santino in that match where Santino had one arm tied behind his back. Does everybody remember that?
Yeah. I really don't.
It was on Raw in like 2008, I think, back when Santino was actually tolerable. But I swear to God, it's one of the funniest things ever. So, wrestling is entertainment. It's okay to be funny and to be entertaining once in a while. I'm just saying.
Well, I think it all depends on, the spots and where you're doing it. For example, that match came in kind of the perfect spot, midway through the show. It wasn't for a championship. It wasn't for, control of the company or some big stipulation. It was just middle of the match, and here's this storyline of, okay, Bully did something to Abyss. What, here's his brother trying to get revenge. That, it fit right there. I do think that is a problem where people can't take, wrestling should be a little bit of a buffet. Like, for example, one of my favorite performers is Colt Cabana. And, don't get me wrong, Colt has shown many times he's capable of having a really good, serious, even blood-level feud. But a lot of times, my favorite Colt Cabana matches are the ones where he comes out and he just is being completely goofy and, doing weird stuff and, just making little jokes and, at the expense of the referee or his opponent.
Well, look at some of the most famous wrestlers of all time. Gorgeous George. Could he wrestle? Not really. Could Hulk Hogan wrestle?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just saying. You just look at it. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you don't need Bob Backlund to have an hour-long match for it to be a good match, and that's what people don't seem to realize anymore.
Well, all due respect to Bob Backlund, even at his peak, did anyone really want to see him have an hour-long match?
I did when he was a heel. Like, I would have, when he turned heel in '94, I was like, I'd watch that character every day. But before that, no, he was boring as hell.
The crossface chicken wing was priceless. That was just awesome stuff.
Yeah.
I remember when it happened, too. It was on an episode of Superstars or something, I think. He had lost a match, and he almost pinned him with a backslide. And I remember marking at home thinking, wow, they took this older guy, and he just went freaking nuts. And by the way...
Well, I bought it. The reason I loved it is because, he was like, oh, my God, Bob Backlund has a personality, and he's psychotic, and whoa, where'd this come from? But I also liked it because I totally bought it, because it was like, look, this is a guy that never officially... he didn't submit to lose the title. Somebody threw in the towel for him. And it's like, right. And that bitterness just built up and up and up until he just went insane. And I was like, yeah, I totally understand this character. Okay.
And I even remember, like, in the weeks leading up to it, they had pushed the story really hard of this was his first chance to get the title back after, I think at that point he'd been like 9 years. For 9 years, right. He had never gotten his rematch, and here it was, his big opportunity. He almost had it, and then he blows it, and it's like, okay, I can buy the guy with snap.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, when they brought him back in '92, I had never seen him before because he was his prime was before I was born.
Before both our times.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And when they brought him in, and they said, oh, this guy was WWF champion for 6 years, I was looking at him as a kid. I'm like, this guy was champion for 6 years? So boring. Like, what?
They did a video to introduce him where they were showing, like, I think, old photos and all his accomplishments, and he was just sitting in a suit and tie, and he said, hello, my name is Bob Backlund, and I was WWF champ. The greatest day of my life was when I won the WWF championship, and now I'm returning. It's like, okay, who cares?
Exactly. But yeah, we really went off on a tangent there. But yeah, Slammiversary, very good show. And as for the main event, well, first of all, we didn't really talk much about the tag match. I thought the tag match was like just amazing. I mean, they were doing all kinds of crazy shit in there.
Well, here's the thing. You get Kurt Angle and AJ Styles, and you give them and they work with Kazarian and Daniels. It's kind of like, all you can really say is, hey, guys, try to have the best match possible. You're going to get something really, really good out of it. And I'm absolutely convinced Kurt is the guy that the way he has made the transition to being in pro wrestling as opposed to collegiate wrestling is he views having the best match as his competition. So he wants to have the best match every single goddamn night. And, it's like, and, the same way with AJ, I think, to a certain extent.
I think so, too. Do you think that, I got a question for you, though, honest question. Have they Lugerized Angle?
To an extent.
I mean, have they I'm a face, I'm a heel, I'm a face, I'm a heel. Have they a face, I'm a heel? This week I'm a babyface, but next week I'm going to be a heel. I mean,
well, you know what? There are a lot of characters like that now. I mean, Mr. Anderson's kind of that way. Big Show is definitely that way. It's just, I guess that's just the nature of the beast now, where just people switch back and forth.
He described Jeff Hardy as his friend on Impact, and it's like, you just got done with a program where you said he hated his guts.
I think to a certain extent, maybe, and I think part of the problem is kind of just the shifting landscape of who you have in your main event, and I think, the story you want to do, and you start, I feel like sometimes one of the things that lacks in wrestling is long-term booking. I feel like to a certain extent, TNA said, okay, we're going to do the storyline with AJ and Daniels and Kazarian where there's going to be blackmail involved and Dixie Carter. It's like, well, they should win the tag titles at some point. Great, then AJ can get a tag partner. Who's he going to team with? Well, what about Samoa Joe? No, not Samoa Joe, because remember, already in the team with Magnus, so it wouldn't make any sense. What about Kurt Angle? Great, perfect. What Angle's a heel? Well, we'll make him a babyface.
Actually, I don't think Angle was supposed to be a heel in the first place. The last time he was heel, I think because Hardy fucked up at Victory Road last year, that left them without a top heel, so they just kind of gave the belts to Angle as a heel just so they could have a top heel, because they put all their eggs into the Hardy basket.
Right, I definitely could see that was the reason. It was kind of like they probably even called Sting and Kurt aside and said, okay, you guys know what happened last month. Sting, you were there. Kurt, we're going to turn you heel because we have some plans for Bobby Roode and James Storm, and we need a big heel for them to work against. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the tag match was amazing. It was like a cruiserweight match in a lot of ways because they were just flying all over the place. But and as for the main event, people that are saying it's bad, I thought it was a good match. It didn't blow my mind or anything, but I thought it was a solid match.
I mean, I think some people are kind of saying, I don't know, maybe I think some people are jumping about the whole, well, Roode tapped out. Yeah, he tapped out on the outside. He didn't lose the belt, and it was something like where they revert.
How many times did Triple H do that in matches? That was like a standard in the Attitude Era where the heel would tap out when the ref had his back turned or some shit. That happened all the time.
Or, or the old Dusty finish where, he got tossed over the top rope with the back of the ring. He's got the submission, he's got the pinfall. 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait, here's the other ref to say that he saw the guy go over the top rope. Turns out he's not really the champion.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought that announce table spot was actually cool because it was the only thing like it on the entire show. And then after, some people were complaining that Sting kicked Robert Roode's ass after the match. I thought it was fine because, A, we got that awesome spot where he did the Scorpion Death Drop off the stage, which looked insane. And lastly, it let the crowd go home happy. Because, so many of the pay-per-views in TNA lately, because Robert Roode's been champion for so long, have been downer endings. So I think they just wanted to send that huge crowd home happy without putting the belt on Sting, and that was probably the best way to do it.
And to a certain extent, you could kind of argue that it gives Sting he can say, okay, I couldn't get the belt off for Roode, but at least I kicked his ass. Because I think it's not going to shock me if the match they're doing on Thursday between Anderson and Roode is going to have some kind of Oh, Root bashes him with a chair, gets himself potentially disqualified, and Hogan says, well, you know what, brother? I'm going to give Mr. Anderson a rematch, and this time it's going to be no disqualification at Destination X. Because I feel like they're going to move on. I'm hoping that they move on from Robert Roode versus Sting. I've enjoyed the matches. That said, and I'm a huge Sting fan. That said, I feel like we got to get him away from the world title picture. You know, and get someone not necessarily brand new, but someone fresh. And we haven't seen a big. They've had a match on Impact, but we haven't had like a big, real feud between Robert Roode and Mr. Anderson. That would at least be fresh. You know, it could get us through the summer a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And they could probably just, put Austin Aries in that spot for Destination X. They might do champion versus champion. Who knows?
Right. Well, he did cut a promo. Which one thing I liked was they had him do like a promo after his match, after he was all showered and dressed up, and it kind of came off sort of like a UFC press conference to a certain extent, where he kind of said, you know what, 1 year ago I was fighting for a contract to get into this company. Then I became the X Division champion. Every month they say it's my biggest test, and I pass with flying colors. What's next? I'm going to the main event. And even the poster for Destination X reads, it's a picture of Aries that reads, I am the main event. So, you know.
So, yeah, either he's getting the world title shot or the X Division title match is actually going to be the main event of Destination X. We'll see.
Yeah. We could get they could, you know, I don't think it'd be a good idea, but you never know because, you know, the TNA, if WWE's nostalgia is bringing back Attitude Era guys, TNA's nostalgia is reminding everyone of the Unbreakable three-way. They could say, you know what? To celebrate the X Division, we're gonna do a four-way match: Austin Aries versus the three greatest X Division champions of all time. AJ,
that would be something.
It would be something, you know. So yeah, it would be something. So we'll see what happens. Like, to a certain extent, it might make sense given the story with Daniels and AJ. So, and Joe and Aries just had a really good match. So we'll see what happens. I am looking forward to Destination X. I'm looking forward to another Live Impact. Not looking forward to No Way Out.
Although there's no card. I'll tell you what. The most interesting. Okay. The cage match is going to end on a swerve. Big Show's going to win because McMahon turns heel. If that happens, don't be shocked. I'm just saying. AJ is going to screw over Punk, and Daniel Bryan's probably going to win the title because of that.
Yep.
And other than that, I mean, there are no other matches, really. I mean, there's an IC title match. There's Sheamus versus Ziggler. Probably the most interesting thing on the show is Triple H giving us an update regarding the lawsuit situation with Brock Lesnar. That's like the most interesting thing they have for this pay-per-view. Everything else is just kind of like, yeah, I don't really care.
Which, by the way, apparently now that whole storyline might be off, depending on Vince's mood.
I doubt that. They mentioned Lesnar on Raw this week, and they're doing the segment on the pay-per-view to update it. So I think it's going to continue.
Yeah. The problem is, and this brings up something I want to bring up, which is a problem sometimes we see in all of wrestling, not just WWE, but which the whole idea is this past Monday, Vince returned, and he had the fate of John Laurinaitis in his hands. I'm thinking, wasn't it just last year about this time that Vince got removed from being in charge of the WWE and they gave the power to Triple H in storyline?
You know what? If I tried to map out that whole situation and tried to make sense of it, it would just hurt my head. Because it's like, wait a minute, so the board of directors makes Triple H the COO and general manager of Raw. Then there's the walkout, so the board of directors have Vince McMahon be the one to remove Triple H from being general manager, but he's still the COO. And then Johnny Ace is made the general. My head hurts. Okay, my head hurts. It was kind of a clusterfuck.
Well, Patrick, it gets even worse. You know how John Laurinaitis is supposed to be the general manager of both Raw and SmackDown?
Yeah.
Last week on SmackDown, the story was because Johnny Ace wasn't there, Teddy Long was in charge again, which makes
what?
God, that makes no sense. Ladies and gentlemen, true story. I should make that noise. My dog Rocky actually jumped up. Like that noise like disturbed the rock star there.
Oh man, that's I'm sorry I did that, but it makes no sense. It's just the way it's like, all right, Vince is in charge again. Fine, whatever. I'll go with it. Whatever.
Well, you know, I go off of an old David Letterman joke that he made about Jay Leno. You know, when you get fired, you go apply for other jobs. You don't wait around in the lobby hoping something opens up. I mean, technically, you know what? I like Teddy Long. I'm not saying he deserves to be fired from the WWE. I'm just saying he doesn't need to be on screen anymore. I mean, especially because they're just doing it. This whole storyline is supposed to be to, like, it's Atunga, Eve, and Johnny Ace embarrassing him, and he watches Claudio Castagnoli make out with the Baroness.
Yeah. Which I love that that's all they could come up with for Claudio. It's like, oh yeah, you're gonna make out with this chick and ruin Teddy Long's life. That's your gimmick. Like, okay, whatever. But
yeah,
it's pretty much all I got. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
Did we talk at all about AJ Lee and Kane?
And how hot she is?
Jay Lee was a lucky man, yeah. But no, I was.
He's not.
He's
not
the crazy chicks. What can I tell you?
Well, he's not anymore, James, because I know for a fact that when she debuted on TV, I guess he went on like some little rampage on Twitter because people kept asking him about her, and he finally just posted like, "Look, we don't fucking date anymore. Now shut up and stop asking me about
her." But Jay Lee's still a lucky man for having it when he did.
You know what?
Yes,
I'll say this. I think
he had to be Mickey James.
Gimmick character. The problem is, I feel like it's being wedged into something it doesn't need to be into. I think there's enough there between Daniel Bryan and Punk that she really doesn't need to be in that story. I prefer they almost do what she did with what they were doing with Mickey to a certain extent, where okay, she's crazy, and now all the divas have to deal with her because Daniel Bryan drove her insane.
Well, I mean, she skipped around Kane. When she skipped around Kane, did anybody else not think, wow, that kind of reminds me of Mickey James?
Yeah, actually, I thought that kind of reminds me of Harley Quinn.
Yeah. Oh,
does everybody know who Harley Quinn is?
What's that?
What'd you say, James?
I said you kind of went over my head there. Who's Harley Quinn?
Okay,
she's the Joker's girlfriend.
Hey,
in the Batman cartoon, she's Joker's girlfriend.
I'm caught up.
I refuse to believe you're that disconnected from the 90s. I know you think music, fashion, and pretty much everything else peaked in the 80s, but you're telling me you've never heard of Harley Quinn.
No, I just didn't get I got lost. I know what I know what you're talking about now. I'm caught up. I didn't get the reference initially.
Okay, good. Okay, good, because if not, I was going to have to fly to Arizona and beat you with a book.
A Batman book.
A Batman book, that's right. Buy my book. Buy my book.
I'll be quiet. By the way, the best part of Prometheus is that I got to quote that critic joke from his student film. I have always loved, oh no, Prometheus.
That was a great show.
Yeah, it was a great
show. It's one of my favorite shows ever.
God damn the people that canceled it.
I think if it would have came out now, it would have done well. I think it was a little bit. I'm not being sarcastic or like an asshole. I think it just was slightly ahead of its time. I don't think people were ready for that snarkiness yet.
Yeah, there was that, and there was also the fact that Fox didn't want it to survive. They got onto Fox. They had The Simpsons as their lead-in, and it did well. But Fox had a bunch of other projects that it wanted to push over the Critic, so the Critic just got cut.
And from what I've actually heard, it was actually set to move to even another network. Like I think think like the very, very, very beginnings of UPN or something, or the WB, and Fox basically kind of just sat on it and said, oh, no, we might bring it back, so you can't have it yet. And then when it was too late for that other network to pick it up, they said, you're canceled.
That sucks. Yeah. Yeah, I do like the Mickey James comparison to AJ. I think I don't know if that's deliberately what they're going for, but.
Well, I'll say this. It reminds me of it. I don't think it's a ripoff, certainly because WWE actually came up with that gimmick. Personally, I'd like to see Mickey go back to being Psycho Mickey just to change things up.
She might. I keep hearing rumors that she's going to turn heel in TNA, so maybe they'll go that route.
I'll say this. If she did that, it would really freshen things up. And I was kind of hoping, like, with because they did it like this, and maybe it's my habit of reading too much into a situation, but they did this segment on Impact with Brooke Hogan, who fucking sucks. But the angle was that she was, like, talking to all the knockouts, and she said something like, oh, hey, in Velvet, I know, we talked about doing, outside appearances for the company. I got you a deal. You're going to appear on a music video for Montgomery Gentry. And Mickey gave, like, this really angry, jealous look for, like, half a second, and my thought was, that could be at least a decent enough idea to start putting Mickey a heel, where maybe she's upset because she views it as, I'm the biggest star in the knockout division because look at what all I did before I got here. And then she goes psycho again, because I miss Psycho Mickey. She was hot.
Oh, well, I mean, Mickey's hot anyway, but which is why I hate Magnus and Kenny Dykstra with a passion, but, yeah, I would love some Psycho Mickey.
Yeah.
So is that all we got, or is that it? Because I'm all out of things to talk about. I can only quote the critic for so long.
Well, I will say this. I think we confirmed that Devon is, in fact, part white.
Why do you say that?
Well, if you saw in the tag team match he had with Garrett Bischoff and against the two Robbies, which was on the Slammiversary pay-per-view, and it was okay, but it was also a good chance to go to the bathroom. At the end of the match, I think to kind of mock the Robbies, Garrett and Devon did like this little dance, and it was absolutely horrible. And for everyone that doesn't know the Dudley Boy gimmick, the gimmick is that they're all the half-breed brothers of a wrestler by the name of Big Daddy Dudley. And I'm like, yep, Devon dances like a white man. He's definitely a white man's son.
Not unusual to be loved by anyone. Doing the Charleston, but alrighty. Well, that's on that semi-racist note. Not really racist, but on that note, we're done for this evening. I'm Patrick Kelly. Thank you to James Walsh for joining us for tonight, and thank you to Nick for staying with me the whole time, buddy.
Right. Remember, boys and girls, liberals don't love the poor. They just despise the rich for being successful.
Oh, now we're getting political. Okay, great. All right. Thank you for that, Nick, and we are done, and we'll see you all later.